You got the email, the offer you have been working toward for 3 years, and instead of celebrating, you closed your laptop and went to bed at 4 p.m. You didn't tell anyone for 2 days. You found small reasons to doubt it. Maybe they made a mistake. Maybe you're not ready. Maybe you should ask for more time before you accept. This wasn't weakness. It was a program running exactly as designed. Somewhere in your nervous system, a switch flipped the second that email landed. Not a character flaw. Not laziness. Not fear of failure, at least not in the way you've been told. Something older took over, and it did its job perfectly. That's the part nobody explains to you. The pulling away, the sudden exhaustion, the strange urge to shrink right when things start working, none of it is random. It is a system responding to a signal it was trained to respond to a long time ago. You are not broken. You are protected, and the difference between those two ideas changes everything about how you fix this. Think about how strange this actually is once you say it plainly. A part of you worked for 3 years toward this exact outcome, late nights, skipped weekends, careful, deliberate effort aimed at one specific goal. And the second that goal arrived, a different part of you tried to make it disappear. That's not a contradiction in your character. That's two systems in your body operating on two different timelines. One built for long-term ambition, the other built for immediate survival. When they conflict, survival always wins the vote because that's what it's designed to do. Let's remove the word willpower from this conversation completely. Willpower was never the issue. You have proven over and over that you can push through hard things. You finished the project. You showed up to the interview. You did the work nobody saw. The issue isn't effort. The issue is that somewhere below conscious thought, success itself got tagged as dangerous. And your body does not negotiate with danger. It reacts to it. This is worth sitting with because most advice about success gets this backwards. It tells you to push harder, to want it more, to visualize the outcome until belief overrides doubt. But you already wanted it. You already believed it was possible, or you wouldn't have done the work to get there. The problem was never the wanting. The problem is a much older system quietly deciding that getting what you want comes with strings attached that you can't consciously see. Think about what actually happens in the hours after a win. Watch how it shows up differently for different people, and notice how familiar each one feels. Some people get the good news and immediately start finding flaws in it. The job is great, but the commute will be brutal. The relationship is going well, but what if it's too good to be true? This is called dysphoric elevation, a documented pattern where positive emotion itself gets flagged as risky. So the brain manufactures a problem just to bring the nervous system back to a level it recognizes as safe. Some people get the good news and go quiet. They stop replying to texts. They stop showing up the way they usually do. This isn't disinterest. It's a freeze response. The same nervous system state that trauma researcher Peter Levine spent decades studying in his work on how the body holds unresolved threat long after the danger has passed. Some people get the good news and immediately start working twice as hard, as if the win needs to be earned all over again, retroactively, before they're allowed to keep it. This one is quieter and harder to spot, because from the outside it looks like ambition. From the inside it's dread wearing the costume of drive. And some people get the good news and simply let it slip away. They miss the deadline. They forget to reply. They talk themselves out of the opportunity using logic that sounds reasonable in the moment, and looks bizarre in hindsight. And some people do something even quieter than all of that. They tell someone close to them, watch that person's face for the smallest flicker of envy or distance, and immediately start managing the win down. It's not a big deal. It's probably going to be a lot of extra stress, honestly. Not because they don't believe it's good news, but because at some point being visibly successful in front of someone else got paired with losing something. A friendship that cooled off, a parent who compared them to a sibling, a room that went quiet instead of celebrating. So they shrink the news before anyone else can react to it first. 5 different behaviors, one shared root. Something in the nervous system decided a long time ago that visibility, or success, or being chosen comes with a cost too high to pay safely. Here's the mechanism, and this is where the model matters. This video sits inside what's called the trigger layer, not where the pattern was first learned, not the interrupt point where you can change it. The middle piece, the exact condition that activates the program once it's already installed. The trigger doesn't need logic to fire. It only needs a match to a stored pattern. Psychiatrist and researcher Bessel van der Kolk, whose work on how trauma is stored in the body reshaped an entire field, described this as the nervous system responding to present-day cues as if they were the original threat, even decades later. Even when the present moment is objectively safe, success can become exactly this kind of cue. If being seen once meant being punished, criticized, envied, or abandoned, then the nervous system doesn't file that experience away as a one-time event. It files it as a rule. Visibility equals danger. And a rule like that doesn't care that the job offer is good news. It only cares that the pattern matches. This connects to what Stephen Porges, the researcher behind polyvagal theory, calls neuroception. The nervous system's constant unconscious scanning for safety or threat running underneath your actual thoughts, faster than you can consciously override it. Your neuroception isn't asking, is this a good opportunity? It's asking, does this match a pattern that once meant danger? When the answer is yes, your body acts first and your thoughts scramble to justify the reaction afterward. That's why the doubt after good news always feels so convincing. It isn't convincing because it's true. It's convincing because it arrived first, and your rational mind is just catching up to a decision your nervous system already made. Psychiatrist Dan Siegel describes something called the window of tolerance, the range in which a nervous system can stay regulated, present, and able to think clearly. Step outside that window in either direction, and the body shifts into survival mode instead. Most people assume that window only gets threatened by bad news. But if your window of tolerance was shaped in an environment where success brought risk, more responsibility dumped on you too early, more scrutiny, more distance from people who felt threatened by you doing well, then good news can push you outside that window just as fast as bad news can. Your body doesn't rank threats by whether they feel good or bad on the surface. It ranks them by whether they match the shape of the original danger. That's the part that makes this so disorienting from the inside. You get the win, and instead of feeling expanded, you feel exposed. Instead of feeling capable, you feel like a target. Not because anything is currently wrong, because the trigger doesn't check the present moment for evidence, it checks it for resemblance. So what do you actually do with this right now, the next time it happens? Here is the override, and it needs to be specific or it won't work. The next time you receive good news and feel that familiar pull to shrink, delay, or sabotage, do not try to think your way out of it. Thinking got you here, and thinking will just generate more reasons the doubt feels valid. Instead, name the trigger out loud in exactly these words. This is a trigger, not a threat. Say it before you respond to the email, before you make the call, before you take any action at all. This does something specific. It interrupts the automatic loop between neuroception and behavior by forcing a half-second of conscious labeling, which research on affect labeling has shown measurably reduces amygdala activation. You're not talking yourself into feeling different. You're giving your nervous system a chance to catch up to reality before it acts on the old pattern. Then wait 24 hours before doing anything that would shrink the win. Don't decline it. Don't downplay it. Don't email back with excessive caveats. Just wait. The urge to sabotage almost always has a shelf life measured in hours, not days. If you can create distance between the trigger firing and your response, the program loses its grip because it was counting on you acting immediately, while the old signal was still loud. Notice what this override is not asking you to do. It isn't asking you to feel confident. It isn't asking you to suddenly trust that everything will be fine, or to talk yourself into excitement you don't feel yet. That would just be adding pressure on top of an already activated nervous system. All it's asking is for a gap, a small, deliberate space between the moment the trigger fires and the moment you act on it. That gap is where the override actually lives, not in changing what you feel, in changing what you do while you feel it. Do this every single time good news arrives, even when it feels unnecessary, even when the win feels small. The pattern doesn't distinguish between a minor compliment and a life-changing offer. It fires on the same signal either way. Practicing the interrupt on small wins is what makes it available to you when a big one shows up, and the stakes make the old pattern louder than usual. This still leaves one question unanswered, and it's the one that actually matters most. Naming the trigger stops you in the moment, but it doesn't tell you where the rule came from in the first place. The exact scene, the exact age, the exact moment your nervous system decided that being seen wasn't safe. That's a different layer of the model. That's where the rule got written, not just where it gets activated. You got the email, and this time you know exactly why your body flinched instead of celebrated. Not weakness, not sabotage. A trigger firing on schedule, protecting you from a threat that isn't there anymore.